All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Divine Farmer Health podcast. This is our second podcast recording. My name is Jimmy Yen. I'm actually going to brand myself differently. I'm not going to be calling myself the TikTok acupuncturist anymore because a lot of people don't know how to say the word acupuncturist. So I'm going to change my brand to the Acu Sensei from now on. And I'm joined by
Oh,
my friend and partner of Divine Farmer Health, Chris McKee. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jimmy. I love that sensei. Ooh, yeah. Maybe you could
So,
explain to people what that means, because maybe some people don't know that terminology.
yeah, so for people that are in the martial arts,
Yeah,
sensei means like teacher. And
yeah.
so, I was toying with the different names of like master, or Zen master, or something like that. But I think teacher is probably a better way, because that's what we do is we're just dispensing information, we're teaching, sharing. So I think that's what sensei stands for.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's awesome. I love it.
Great. So what's our topic for today?
I think I'm going to jump off from where we left off last week. And so for those who didn't see last week, where can they go grab these recordings?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you make sure, obviously, if you're seeing this live, it's because you're probably already following us on Facebook at Divine Farmer Health. But we also have a YouTube channel where we are putting all of these recordings onto our YouTube channel, which is Divine Farmer Health. So search us at Divine Farmer Health on YouTube, and you will be able to access all of our podcast recordings.
Cool, cool. Okay, so for those who didn't watch, if you're watching live, or maybe just in the feed on Facebook here in an hour or two, but if you didn't get to see last week's, go back and watch that one. I'm just going to touch a little bit again on what we talked about last week, which was mitochondria, right? Which was a big word, and we kind of dove into what it is and the battery of our body, and we have to have them functioning correctly for health and longevity. Absolutely essential. They're in every cell of the body. We talked a little bit about the fact that they have their own DNA, which most people don't realize. We have our DNA of our cell, and then their mitochondria has our DNA. So I thought what I would do today is kind of tie that into metabolism
Mhm.
and maybe dispel some myths on metabolism. Because I think we've all kind of grown up with the mindset, well, I'm just born with this metabolism, or my mom had a slow metabolism, or whatever. And then I don't think we really understand what metabolism is. So how's that sound?
Sounds great.
Yeah. So we see obviously an epidemic of what was called metabolic syndrome. And so a lot of times people are like, what? What's metabolic syndrome? So you did a lot of videos on this, which was great. And that's just the big picture umbrella over the top of things like high cholesterol, high blood pressure, high fasting glucose. There's a big picture umbrella that goes over all that, and it's called metabolic syndrome. And unfortunately, in the US anyway, we know that just on blood glucose alone, 90% of the population is either diabetic or pre-diabetic. And the majority of people don't even know they are pre-diabetic. They don't know they're in a bad place, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about metabolism and all of that stuff, because I just think it's so sad that what I heard the other day actually was very interesting from a doctor who works with people kind of doing what we do. And he said what they do as people age, what Western medicine has done is they've adjusted the ranges, healthy ranges, and they say that these ranges now are okay here because you're now 60 years old, right? So they're
Mhm.
taking the broad spectrum of the population and saying, well, the average range, because so many people have these issues, is here. So you're okay because you're here. You're average. Well, we don't want to be average, right? We
Yeah.
want to be way above average, and we want a healthy life. We want a healthy health span, a long health span, not necessarily a long lifespan. So Western medicine can keep you alive a really long time, but are you healthy and active and enjoying life? That's a great question. we want a a long, healthy lifespan. And so metabolism, mitochondria, all this stuff plays a huge role in that, and being able to live a long time healthy, as like the people in the world, longest living people in the world, are living in their hundreds and they're very active. So I'd say let's set that as a goal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was going to share a little bit about, I have been reading Dr. Lee's book. I don't know, this might be backwards. No, it showed up. Good. Okay, so Dr. William Lee, Eat to Beat Your Diet. I've read both of his books, Eat to Beat Disease and then Eat to Beat the Diet. He's a doc, but he's also a researcher. That's his majority of what he does. And I thought it was so fascinating because this is talking about, there's a section in there on metabolism. And they did research on 6,421 people. They did 14 countries. So we're talking about different ethnicities, right? So 14 countries. And they did everything from 8 days up to 95 years old. So they're looking at a huge span in age. And they were studying to find out what happens with metabolism.
Okay.
And so this is going to blow your mind, because this is going to blow everything out of the water that we had already thought, right?
Yeah.
We think of kids, right? Teenagers and stuff. Oh, they must have a high metabolism. Well, the highest level of metabolism from 0 to 1 year. Okay, so 0 to 1 year old, you're 50% higher metabolism than anybody past that point. Well, that makes sense when you look at a little 1-year-old, right? But from 1 to 20, it actually slows down. That 50% starts to come down. They're not going at the rate they were in that first year. And then from 20 to 60, it flatlines. They did not see any change in metabolism from 20 to 60. So how many people have you heard say, well, as you get older, your metabolism slows down, right?
Yeah, that's going to change the way. Yeah, that's actually, I have never heard of that. So this is really
Isn't that
cool.
crazy? So then it starts to slow down, declines about 0.7%. It declines after 60. 0.7%.
Wow.
So this is not like we can blame it all on aging anymore. We can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that blew me away. I thought this was so fascinating. So I thought, okay, so then you're like, what happens, right? What happens as we're seeing ourselves go? 20-year-olds typically are, they're not usually dealing with, health issues or, weight gain or whatever, but 30, you start to see it, 40, definitely 50. I mean, we go up, right? So what's really interesting is the research showed that it's not slow metabolism that causes you to put fat on the body. It's the fat that you put on the body that slows the metabolism down. Yeah. So it is the lifestyle. It is the food. It is the stress. It is the lack of sleep. It's all these things that cause the body to put fat on the body that slows the metabolism down. It's not the other way around. And I think that it's freeing, but it's also like, oh dear, I need to take full responsibility now. Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
That is, I mean, that makes perfect sense. It's, so much, like nutrition companies, or whether it's, even healthcare practitioners, there's a lot of marketing out there that is done to say, hey, it's not your fault. It's not your responsibility. And we all want to believe that because we don't want to take responsibility of that we brought our bodies to this condition. We don't want to say it's the food industry. We want to say it's pharmaceutical companies. They are the villains. They caused me to lose my health. But in reality is, we made the choice. So it is our responsibility. And it makes perfect sense. It's like, so we are slow. So our bodies, based on, I have a question about the metabolism research, but our bodies we are causing our metabolism to slow down. Now, this may sound terrible, but actually, if you think about it, it's great news, because if we are the culprit, then guess what? We know how to fix it. That means if we change if we change our habits, which sounds very simple, which is it is very simple. Since we are the cause, We put on the fat, we put in the crappy diet, we didn't do the right resting. So we are the culprit. That means we're the cause, which means we can fix it. That means we're the solution also. So there's no
Yeah.
more of this, oh, I was genetically programmed my metabolism was genetically programmed to slow down when I turn 40.
Yeah.
No, it's not, because we created it. So that's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. And so my question about the metabolism research is, did they explain in the book, like, how were they measuring metabolism?
Oh yeah, it's kind of complicated. I wouldn't go into it here. They did. It was quite interesting what they were doing to measure it. So but it's kind of complicated. It's like a whole chapter. So
Okay.
I could certainly send you a couple clips of it or something so you can see that. But it to me it was obviously science can do things now that we could never do before, and we can
Yeah.
look at things now that we could never look at before. So it's quite cutting edge, I guess you might say, in the way that they're doing all of this stuff. But to be able to start at 8 days old, very interesting to me that
Yeah.
they could start at that, be so young. But back to
Hmm.
your point about we could take responsibility. One of the things that I heard this from Jim Rohn, maybe. I don't know if you know who Jim Rohn is. I love the man. I used
Yes.
to listen to all his when it was CDs, you could pop in your car. But he used to say that whenever you blame anybody else for why you're not getting what you want in your life, you're powerless. You've
Yeah.
given all the power to that person, or like you said, that situation or whatever, you're powerless. When you take full responsibility, you gain your power back.
Hmm.
And that has stayed with me for so long that we can blame outside circumstances. And yes, many people have. I work with clients all the time, and lifestyle and life and what's going on in their life is a big part of my intake with them. And a lot of people live very, very stressful lives, very stressful, but we always strategize. Where can we start? What can we do? It's a baby step, but like you said, that baby step can become a habit. Then we can add on to that and we can stack those habits. And it's just a decision. I put a post on the Facebook feed today, I think, about decisions. That another thing that I think he said was life is all about decisions. Everything
Yep.
that we're experiencing now is based on a decision we made. And so we made a decision to drive to McDonald's every day for lunch, or we can
Hmm.
make a decision to pack our lunch. So it's all about a decision, and it is very empowering. And I just had an appointment with a client yesterday that was a follow-up. And our first appointment was 2 years ago in 2021. And she completely fell off the wagon and didn't do it, right? Anything that we said. And so she emailed me back again in March and she said, okay, it's time for me to get serious. She's got rheumatoid arthritis. She needs to get serious. So we put a plan together. And her biggest thing was, she's a realtor. She's super busy. She doesn't want to do a lot of prepping for cooking. She has to be simple. She has to be able to eat in the car a lot of the time. So we strategized, and then we narrowed down her supplements. She'd been going to a functional medicine doctor. He had her on this slew of. She wasn't taking them, and
Yeah.
so we narrowed them down to reasonable. She doesn't like taking pills, so we went to some liquids, and so we had our follow up, and she said, I have done pretty much everything, because in my mind, we simplified it and we made it doable, and we
Yeah.
had strategy, and
Yeah.
I'm feeling so good. And so it was like, that's what we have with our lives. She's got a crazy busy life. And
Hmm.
so we can do this. We can make a decision to take one of these areas of our life that we know maybe is out of control, right? I mean, sugar cravings are a big one for a lot of people. And we have an answer to that, right? With some of our programs that we take people through. We talk about
Yeah.
that a lot because that's a big thing. But it's just something that we have to accept responsibility for, and don't blame or shame ourselves. Just say, you know what? Yep. Guess what? I got off track. I got off on the wrong road. Maybe it was the way you were raised. Maybe you were raised on junk food and you don't know any other way to eat.
Hmm.
So give yourself some grace and say, let's take a baby step. Because what's so interesting is once what he talks about, once the fat comes on the body,
Hmm.
then we start to get into that metabolic syndrome thing, right?
Hmm.
So we see elevated inflammation. a tremendous amount of elevated inflammation when we're carrying a lot of excess fat on the body. And then the inflammation, which you probably know this, Jimmy, so a lot of the research now shows this, is tied to pretty much every age-related disease that we have.
Yes.
Yeah. Alzheimer's, right? Just everything. I mean, arthritis, it's just gut disorders, just a million things are tied to inflammation. So we have this first thing that happens is the weight comes on, and then we have this cascading effect, inflammation being a big one. And then with the inflammation, then we start to see we also see the blood glucose levels coming up. Yeah. So here's where I am just going to say it right out loud here, and everybody can just take what I say or leave it or not. But the range for blood glucose right now, if you go to your family practice doctor, if you're running 90, 95, they're going to say you're fine. You are not fine. You are not fine. Do you know your blood glucose level should be around 80, 85? Fasting glucose, and they'll do it on your labs every year, your annual labs. If you're 90, 95, you have been in what we call insulin resistance probably for 10 years. That is a long time. And then that causes the weight to come on, and that causes inflammation. Alzheimer's is now being called type 3 diabetes because of the flooding of the sugar in the brain. So these are serious things, but we have to get back to where we really should be, not because of the range, just because the average person in the US runs 90, 95 at 60 years old. We got to go back to where we really should be. I was just listening to a functional medicine doctor yesterday, and he said, I like it in the 70s. I like to see fasting glucose in the 70s. I run about 80 on my fasting glucose. So, you really want to be at least in the 80s. And this is a huge thing. Okay. So when we talk about metabolism, when we talk about energy and metabolism and the body being able to run the engine, the battery of the body, the mitochondria, all that inflammation is damaging your mitochondria. It's damaging those energy, those we called them what, Energizer bunnies last week? Yeah, the little batteries of your body. All this inflammation, all this floating around, all this sugar floating around is damaging your mitochondria. You guys do not want damaged mitochondria. So last week we used the example of a room full of preschoolers, tons of energy running around versus an assisted care home, walkers and canes and wheelchairs, right? The batteries are dying. We don't want to be there. We're never going to be 2-year-old again. But from looking at this metabolic study, after 20, our metabolism stays flatlined until 60. And then at 60, it only goes down 0.7%. So we want to keep these batteries healthy. We want to keep the mitochondria healthy. But the things that, unfortunately, when the fat comes on the body, then we get the inflammation, we get the high floating around high blood glucose. We start to see a lot of things like arthritis. We start to see cognitive decline. The other thing that's happening when we have high blood glucose, most people don't correlate that with high insulin. But think about this, because what type 2 diabetes is when the pancreas is no longer able to produce enough insulin, right? 10 years before that, you're pumping out so much insulin to try to keep that blood glucose down. You're pumping out so much insulin, and your poor pancreas is getting exhausted. Well, insulin is like miracle grow for fat cells. You want to make fat cells grow? Put that miracle grow insulin on there, and it'll make those fat cells grow. So we've been running this high insulin as the blood sugars start creeping up. And a lot of people tell me that. They'll say, well, yeah, it was 90 last year. Now it's 93 this year. Now next year, I'm 94. You start to see the blood sugars. Every lab, every year is going. That means your insulin has been pumping out more and more and more and more. And then the magic number, for diabetes, you go over 100 and you're pre-diabetic. Magically, 99 is okay, but 100 is not. We've got to stop it way before that. So it's super crucial for this whole metabolism thing to go back to the foundation of, are we carrying excess weight on the body? We need to get that under control. That is the foundation for the cascade effect of all these other things that are happening. So what I love about what we do, our programs that we do is we talk about this, we address this, we talk about how in the heck do we get these bodies back in alignment when we've been running high blood sugars for 10 years or something like that. We've been running this body system for 10 years and it's been off. We give people tools and we give them understanding of how to get back on track. It's not what I love about Dr. Lee talks about this, not in his other book, How to Beat Disease. It's reversible. I mean, they have so many, I mean, you can reverse type 2 diabetes. It's not a forever diagnosis. We now know we can reverse type 2 diabetes. We can restore the pancreatic function. So the body will heal, right? The body will heal. Yeah.
So one thing I want to add in, just so everybody that's listening, these numbers that we're giving out, we're not recommending that you try to achieve these numbers by yourself. You definitely want to, be in the care of your family doctor while you're trying to do this. So we're not telling you to, hey, starve yourself so that your blood sugar drops to 70s. Do not do that, especially if you're regardless of your type 2 or especially if you're type 1. If you're type 1, we are not talking about your situation. We're talking about type 2. So you got to be careful. We are not telling you to starve yourself, to drop it, by yourself. You need assistance. You need to do it with somebody. Check with your primary care. The other thing is, as Chris was saying, excess weight is the problem, but it's not the root cause. So there's actually, we got a message from on Instagram that someone was asking us, doctors, weight loss, bariatric surgeons, they are promoting, this is their marketing pitch to you. Oh, you don't have to change your diet. All you have to do is get bariatric surgery and you will instantly lose the weight and you will instantly cure your diabetes. And some of that is true. When you lose that weight drastically, that does put your numbers back into good range. But because you really haven't fixed the root cause, your diabetes will come back. It's just a matter of time. So there are many ways to reverse type 2 diabetes. We're not telling you which way is the best way for you. We don't know your medical conditions, but we are just letting you know that you can reverse it. It is possible to reverse it naturally without doing surgery, without taking medications, without taking a ton of supplements. You can do it naturally, holistically, because if you just imagine, what Chris is saying is the weight, the fat is preventing the inflammation, is preventing our mitochondria from working. It's actually preventing many of our organs from working. So we have to first, look at, for example, if you're trying to grow a plant, and that soil that you put the little seed into a soil that has been contaminated with motor oil, that plant's not going to grow until you remove that contamination. So if you just imagine the fat, that's what we are contaminating our bodies with, is that fat, because fat also retains toxins. Like when you smoke, when you breathe in toxins, you take medication, those toxins get stored into your fat cells. So it's like the motor oil in the soil around the plant that you're trying to grow. So it doesn't matter how much water you put in the plant, how much sunshine you give it, how much Miracle-Gro you give it, that plant's not going to grow because of the motor oil that's still in the soil. So the key is to remove that motor oil first. And that's why a lot of programs you will see, they will do detox first, right? But detox may or may not be the first step, because you have to look at the core, the root cause. The root cause is, how did you get that fat in the first place? I mean, if you're eating Krispy Kreme donuts every day, then obviously you know the cause. But if you have been eating perfectly, but you still in metabolic syndrome, you have to find the root cause. And the difference between what Chris and I talk about in our programs is the root cause is organ dysfunction, which is caused by inflammation. So you have to address the inflammation. So some people may be thinking, oh, why don't I just do an anti-inflammatory diet? You could, but and some of you will get results and some of you will not, because still you haven't fixed the root cause, which is the organs. It's not just your pancreas. It's every single organ in your body is involved in your health. So you have to identify which ones are not functioning correctly and fix those first, right? Because if you detox first and your body can't handle, because detox basically is releasing toxins into your bloodstream.
Yeah.
If your organs are already damaged, they can't handle that flood of toxins. So now you're
Right.
making it worse, right? So that's why some people, when they detox, they may say, "Oh man, I feel worse." Well, that's the reason why, because you didn't fix the root cause, which is the organs. You need your organs to be able to handle that detox effect, right? And so that's the difference of what Chris and I are talking about. What we teach is completely different from anything that's in the market right now.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point. And I don't think most people realize, I don't know, who walks around and thinks about their liver and their kidneys and their,
Mhm.
we do, every day we get up, we go, right? We don't stop and go, gee, I wonder how my liver's doing today. I wonder if my kidneys are working, unless you have a disease, unless you have a problem, but most of us don't get up in the morning and think about that. I sometimes joke and say, we get up in the morning, do we look in the mirror and go, oh, look at all those beautiful skin cells on my face? No, we just don't think about ourselves. It's just most of the time we just get through the day and we just go and we be kind of unconscious about what's really going on, which is a beautiful thing when you think about the human body, that it just does all this stuff without us thinking about it. But at some point, we start to have organ dysfunction. We start to see the liver's really struggling, or the kidneys are really struggling, or the pancreas is really struggling, right? And we see a symptom, but so most of the time it's not correlated back to an organ.
Mm-hmm.
We have a tendency to just medicate a symptom versus going in and looking at the root cause, like you said. So it is such an empowering thing. I really believe when I work with my clients, I hear this, that I get to do something about it. I don't have to make an appointment with my doctor and go get another pill. I actually can do something about it myself. And then you start to learn what those tools are. And there's foundation. Everybody's different. Like you said, Jimmy, we're all different. I always say we're all a study of one. We are, but there are foundational things that don't change across the human biology spectrum, right? So
Yeah.
blood sugar being ideal doesn't change. It doesn't matter what your genetics are. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter. We need good blood sugar. We need it stabilized. We need it in a good range for health to happen. And that means that high sugar, high carbohydrate diets across the board, no matter your ethnicity, your age, are not going to be good for you. So there's some very foundational things that we can say apply to everybody. We know McDonald's every day is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Krispy Kreme donuts are not a good thing every day. So we know there are some foundational things. Now there are the tweaks and the changes, depending upon you as a person. How long have you had blood sugars that are high, let's say, or how long have you been a type 2 diabetic or whatever? And I absolutely agree. If you can get, and here's the thing that I tell my clients too, is always ask. I send them back to their doctor with a list of labs that I want. Ask, right?
Yeah.
If you're only getting, let's say we're going to work on your blood sugar, go back to say to your doctor, I would love to get my labs done every 6 months instead of just once a year. I'd like to know if I'm making progress, right? Get your doctor to be a partner with you in this journey. You want to see your cholesterol coming down. You want to see your blood sugars coming down, right? You want to see the inflammation markers coming down. It's so empowering to see those labs and say, yes, I'm going in the right direction. So absolutely, if you're in, and I'll say to my clients, look, if your doctor won't do that, go find another one. Because they should do this. They should want you well. They should want to see you progressing and well. And so you want to have a partner on the medical side, and then you can have your partner on the holistic side. And like my client yesterday, she has a great doc that's working with her, and he knows, she sees me, and I know that she sees him, and he's done some great labs for us that I wanted done. I just sent back a list, and he did some thyroid labs that I wanted. So it was great. And so she's so excited because she's like, I feel like I have 2 team members on my team.
Yeah.
They're helping me go towards my goal.
Yeah.
And he can do things I can't do, and then I do things that he can't do. So it's a beautiful partnership. And so we really all want that. We want to be able to have those team members on our team as we head towards these goals that we have for a long, healthy lifespan. That's the goal, right? And going back to metabolism, when we think about metabolism, again, we have a tendency to think of it just in terms of fat burning and just in terms of, I have a slow metabolism or whether, but when you go back down to the cellular side at the mitochondrial level, this is where we want to nourish those cells, and we want to keep that mitochondria healthy. And we talked about this last week, your dad being 82, is that what you said he was?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And out hiking the younger guys, right? Yeah. So it's very useful.
Chris, we'll save that topic for the next week, for next episode. So let me summarize, let me close it out. And so just to reiterate, a couple of things that Chris was saying, there are some foundational things that everybody needs to do, right? Those are similar for most people, right?
Right.
And so that's where you start. You need to do the foundation thing, just like when you're building a house. You don't start asking about where am I going to put the plugs, the electricity, the lights before you build the foundation, before you lay the cement to build the foundation. Every house you see in your neighborhood has a foundation. And that's why, some of you who have been through our programs are saying, oh, I already do that, or I've already doing some of that. Great, that's awesome. But you need to make sure you do all of it. So you need to lay a good foundation, and then you can start doing more advanced training afterwards. You don't do advanced training until you have laid the foundation. So that's one point. The last point that I'll leave everybody with is what Chris was talking about, the partnership. It's many people have said, we are all the CEO of our bodies, and the physicians, and then me as an acupuncturist, Chris as a nutritionist, we're like CFO, COO, CTO. We all are here to support you as a CEO. You are the CEO of your body. Nobody can replace that. You are the CEO of your body. We are just the other executives, part of your team. Nobody replaced the CFO can't do what the COO does. And vice versa. The COO, Chief Operating Officer, doesn't do what the Chief Financial Officer does. So we all have a place on your team. You as a CEO need to get these team members and then work together. And that will help you move your business, which is your body, to a more healthier state. And so this is what we'll be continuing on. This is what Chris and I's purpose is, to help you become a better CEO of your body. And we will see you here at the same time, same channel. So Facebook Live will be here. All the recordings will be on our YouTube. So Divine Farmer Health. Make sure you get your friends to like our page here on Facebook. Follow us here on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube, because that's where all these recordings are going to be. All right, guys. That's it for today. We apologize for going overboard a little, but we will see you next week. All right. Bye.
Bye for now.